Hi guys, joyous Monday or whatever day it is in the world, wherever you are right now. You're you're welcome to hashtag no filters number 19, I believe, with me, Cheryl, Norris, Hopkins, and I'm on fire today. I can feel it. So, big disclaimer: if you are totally happy with how life is for you right now and have no desires for anything to change, this show is definitely not for you. If maybe you have a feeling that you'd like something to be a little bit different, but you're not that bothered, you don't really want to have to make any effort, maybe if other people make some changes, you'll go along with it, but it doesn't interest you that much, today is definitely not for you. If you're like, something's not quite right, there's a little bit of an irritation, a little splinter in your mind where you're not being who you really would love to be. You're not able just to turn up and be you without squashing and hiding bits of you. So, for example, do you have to hide who you are in front of your family, your mum, your dad, your siblings, your partner? Do you have to hide bits of who you are in front of colleagues, in front of certain friends? Do you even hide what's important in your life and what you would love to have from yourself? If that resonates for you, or right to the extreme edge of things are kind of crazy and you're really questioning how the world's out about what it's all about, today is definitely for you. So, welcome again. Sabina's not here. It's just me doing my thing. She'll join us as and when it feels right for her. For right now, I'm taking charge and just sharing what's up in the world and what I think may be of value. Now, as I've said before, whatever I say is not the truth. What I do is share some tips, some insights, some new ways of looking at things to give people more freedom. And so when I was thinking about that this morning, I kind of thought, we all think we're free pretty much, depending where you are in the world. Most of us think we're free. But are you? And what do I mean by that? And why the hell should you even care? Let's dive in today and see what comes to the surface. So, I've already alluded to the concept of freedom. Hi, Tanya. Thanks so much for joining. Lovely to have you on board, my darling. Guys, if you're on board and you're going to enjoy the show, please do share afterwards, like it, go to YouTube, subscribe there. I'll post a link below at some stage. My friend Tanya, she's in Portugal. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. How lovely is that? I hope you're having a wonderful time, including enjoying the cloudy weather. Really appreciate you being online, my darling. And it's easiest to know who's online by actually just making a comment, because with Facebook Lives and or StreamYard, I don't really necessarily know who's online unless you make a comment. So feel free to do that. Okay, freedom. Are you free? And if not, what's stopping that freedom? I'm going to share a little bit about my journey, because who am I to be speaking about freedom and even inviting you to consider having more of it and what that actually means? So I have this obsession, I would call it, as in every day for me, there's this drive, this desire to be more and more free. And what that means for me is the ability to like who I see standing in front of the mirror. It's the ability to be willing to speak up, to share my ideas, even if others don't agree. It's not having to hide parts of me that are so important to me because of what my partner might think, or what my family might think, or what somebody in my neighborhood might think. Now, sure, not everybody gets to see all aspects of me all the time. Of course not, because we interact with different people, and therefore, within the time frame and the context, we may only show a particular aspect of ourselves in terms of what's relevant to that. But there's a very big difference between only sharing what's relevant to a meeting, to an interaction, because that's the information that's pertinent, versus hiding core parts of who we are and what we believe in, because we're scared of being judged, of being made wrong, of others laughing at us, of people walking out of our life. And so I'd like to share a little bit, of my journey to see why it's been so important, and therefore what I may be able to offer to you guys right now. So I remember being about 5 years of age and coming home after a test at school where I didn't know the alphabet. I was mortified. There's a whole background to this and a whole story, but that's irrelevant. At that moment, I felt let down by my foster mum at the time, and I vowed never to depend on anybody again. Fast forward 3 years, age 8, I'm suddenly taken into care into a children's home. Obviously, I'm already in care, being in foster care. Suddenly taken to a children's home. Um, Within 7 weeks, within a few weeks, I go to visit my foster mum in hospital, not realizing how seriously ill she is. And I have a tantrum because I can't have a toy or get access to a toy. A couple of weeks later, I'm told she's dead. About 6 weeks later, I'm crying, I'm upset, and the children's home, the aunts and uncles, as they were called, were on holiday together with a load of other kids during the summer holidays. I'm crying and I'm told no more tears. That's enough. I make the next big choice and decisions in my life never to show anything, never be vulnerable, never be open. Fast forward, age 13, I'm unable to get out of bed one morning, and it turns out I've got rheumatoid arthritis in the base of my spine, and everybody's freaking out that I may never be able to walk and that I've got to go on drugs and I have to give up sport and lots of things that I love. Just those 3 or 4 instances cemented into my world not to show core parts of me, not to rely on anybody else, not to let others dictate what I can and can't do. And I vowed that I would be self-sufficient as much as possible. And it defined that then set the tone. And then through into my 20s, I continued that with that, let me overachieve or let me take command in my education, in choosing who I'm in relationship with, how I control my body, what it can and can't do, how I needed to master how to fix and maintain cars, how I needed to take charge of a career and do really well in that. Go for things that are really difficult, do engineering as a degree, come top of my year, get the highest first in the whole of the school, still not feel good enough. Let me go and get a really great graduate job. Let me go and work over in Singapore because it'll challenge me. Let me go into the banking sector. Let me work in telecoms. Let me push, 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 push. The reason I share this is just to give you an overview of what it was that was driving me, this obsession to have a sense of freedom. But I didn't have freedom. I was running from fear. I was running from being open to others. I was running from allowing anybody to contribute to me. I was running from ever being able to say, can I have some help? I don't understand. I'm not sure. I was running from ever showing any real joy. And so at the age of 26, 27, realizing it was unsustainable because it didn't matter what I achieved, it was never enough. I realized that was unsustainable and decided to turn and do the 180 and look what I was running from. That true freedom was going to be going through all this stuff that I didn't want to look at, all the things that I was trying to avoid, all the things that, as I'd been conditioned in my upbringing, through my life experience, as is each of you, as we all are, and you're all going to have your own version of my story in different forms. Things that happened at school that were fundamental, things that happened in your families, things that happened with partners, with lovers, things that happened with jobs that have kind of set the tone as to what you would and wouldn't do, what you would and wouldn't be. And so in that mid to late 20s, I realized that my way of being was unsustainable. And I was going to, no matter what, with this dedication to freedom, I was going to face everything I was avoiding. And it's been a 22, 23-year journey. So it's on that basis that I want to explore. And I had this thing about others having freedom. Freedom from themselves, primarily. You see, we think we want freedom. We seek freedom. We need freedom from things outside of us, from what our governments are telling us, or what our job tells us, or what our partner wants from us, or what our kids demand from us, or what our friends expect from us. We think we want freedom from that, or that we're always pushing away from that. The biggest source of our freedom, I'm going to dare to say, I'm like almost 50. So for 50 years, I've been on this path of exploring this through my practical living, as well as studying various forms of psychology and energy and body work and spirituality and all sorts of interesting, diverse things in this quest. But the thing that's consistent is you. The thing that's consistent is me. We're the only thing that's always in our lives, no matter who comes and goes, no matter what's going on in the outside world. The thing that has a true source of choice and power in any moment is you, is me. Now, it's very easy for us to go, everybody else needs to change, everything else needs to change. And it's not to say that things around us don't have an impact. So let me share some observations of what I'm aware of in the world right now. And as much that I won't share, because actually, I think there's a lot of things that I'm aware of that people frankly aren't ready to hear. We are so obsessed, programmed, conditioned to want comfort and safety, not only in our body's physiological wiring and energetic structure, but with the way we've set up society, particularly in the West. I know there's much more to the world than just that. But even those in countries that are still so-called developing, people desire a sense of comfort. So most of us aren't really looking to have a world shaken up that much. We don't mind a little tweak, but we really don't want significant change. In fact, we're much more comfortable complaining and moaning about what isn't working because it gives us a sense of power. Just check in with that for a moment. We are more comfortable with moaning and complaining, pointing the finger, talking about what isn't working, than we are really looking at what's going on inside us and what we can do to contribute to create change, because it gives us a sense of power. Be honest with yourselves now, guys. How often do you do that in your own world? I definitely do it at times. When I catch myself, I'll go, stop that. I'm not free. I'm making myself a victim right now. But it's so easy to go down that route. Our newspapers constantly, our media constantly tells us about what's wrong, who should change. They're to blame. They're the source. Our movies, our entertainment, it's constantly there's battles between good and evil, people on the right team, on the wrong team, trying to overthrow each other, doing harm to one another, all in the name of justice. We have a legal system which is constantly trying to prove who's guilty, who's innocent. Something else is always to blame. And all that does, as we know, my lovely little analogies, keeps us at each other, tagging away at each other. No more free, but an illusion of freedom. So, in the world right now, yes, we have lockdowns. Yes, we have newspapers. We have media censoring lots of information, lots of other people's points of view. We have those who would like us to go down a particular path that would be more restrictive. And the more that people question that, those that question that are being told to quieten down, to conform. But how much is that a reflection of what's going on inside us? Think of your home right now. And look at your home as an analogy for you as a person, how much you allow yourself and what you think and feel to be really out in the world, to be expressed. Your interests, your desires, your doubts. And if you think of your home as being in the totality of who you are, how much space are you occupying in that? How much of the true you is coming through? So, for example, if you hide about, I don't know, 80% of who you are for most of the world, maybe that's kind of like living in your bathroom. You've got all these other rooms, but you don't really use them because you don't want anybody to see you. And maybe with a certain friend that's a really good buddy, maybe that means they see 60% of you, 70% of you, which is more like using, most of your bedrooms and your lounge and your kitchen, but maybe not the attic, maybe not one of the rooms. What happens when you don't use a house, when you keep it locked up, when you keep rooms locked up? It gets a bit stinky, right? Stale. Paintwork starts to peel off the walls. Cobwebs start to form. There might be a feeling of damp. It doesn't quite smell right. Or if you leave a car in a garage, some of you in lockdown may have not used your vehicles that much, particularly in the first round, sort of March, April time. What happened when you didn't take your car out for a run, take your motorbike out for a run? If you left it in there 2, 3 weeks, not using it, did you have a flat battery? Did your tyres get a bit saggy? Was the car sluggish? It's the same with us. We're not really expressing ourselves. We're trying to contain those bits that we think aren't acceptable. We get sluggish. We shut down. Cracks start to appear. I'm just reading Tanya's message here. We had a wonderful experience today. There's been a storm and the river has flooded. We stopped to watch it together with all the locals, none of whom were wearing face masks. We said good afternoon and watched the river together. How beautiful. What a beautiful experience. Connection. What a beautiful experience. Thank you for sharing that, Tanya. Thank you so much. And it's not even so much about whether we're wearing masks or not, or any of this stuff. I mean, you may watch this in 3 years' time after the world is very different. There's always something new. There's always something to be worried about, allegedly. And maybe that's all going to be changing. I perceive there's lots of fascinating things that are going to be coming out into the public arena in the beginning of 2021. And some of it's already coming out now. But most of us wouldn't know that by watching the mainstream media or social media, with all the censorship that's currently occurring. And this is what's fascinating here, because I was talking to somebody who was cleaning the windows the other day, and he said, "Oh, I'm not political. I don't watch the news, and I'm not really interested in what's going on there." And yet, we've all agreed to governance. We've all agreed to policies. We've all agreed, or to having people help represent some of our ideas to make society run more smoothly. And I said, it's not so much this guy. I said, it's not so much even about politics, but it's what is it triggering in you? What is it you don't want to look at? What is it that makes you say, I don't want to, I'm not interested in politics, I don't want to know? When the whole world is set up with systems, governance, that only works because we, the people, are agreeing to it. The financial system only works because we, the people, agree to play within it. The medical system only works because we, the people, agree with it. I find it fascinating. For example, the film industry, entertainment, that, and I'm going to be popcorning, jumping around all over the place today because there's so much that I'm aware of. And within an hour, I'm trying to give as many examples as possible that something might pop for you and add just that little piece that might be missing, or give you just that little nudge that enables you to go, oh my God, you know what? I want something different. I want more ease. Actually, this bit of information I'm hearing right now could create a little bit more fun in my life. So I popcorn so that it gives everybody an opportunity to find something that resonates for them. I'm not working with you guys directly one on one or in a small group or running a workshop with you where I can interact with you much more. I'm doing it through a screen, so I'm just doing my best to find something that might spark something within you. And if this is not for you, if this doesn't resonate, throw it all away. And if you end up getting a copy of this video because somebody sends it to you and it doesn't resonate, turn it off or pass it on to somebody you think it might do. So, pick up where I was going. Mainstream entertainment. I find it fascinating that generally it's okay for there to be violence and see violence as a source of entertainment through a TV screen. But if people kick off on the streets in protest, and I'm not condoning violence one bit, but I'm just showing, right, the perversion here. It's okay in a film and for films to gross millions, billions, showing violence. But if somebody kicks off on the street because they disagree with something, they get arrested, they get fined, they get put in jail. Maybe they don't, maybe they walk free. What is that about? Where have we as a society, where are we as people, where have we been conditioned, brainwashed, and where we allow that to continue? Because each of us as a child is brainwashed, as in we're conditioned continually by everything we see. All the adults are sharing with us, all our education is teaching us, all the media, all the games. It's constantly conditioned us to behave and accept things. And we may not, we may rebel, but it's trying to get us to conform to a way of being. And so every bit of information and data that comes in through everything out there in the world, in society, constantly looks to reinforce that. And yet at the same time, it's contradictory. So it's almost as if there's this constant noise of distraction. Get everybody to conform and then have contradiction. It's okay in a movie, but it's not okay here. We read it in the paper, conflict, but it's not okay to have discussion, open discussion, to have different ideas on media. It's almost as if by keeping this constant whirlwind of conflicting information, conform, yet tell one story, but you can't live that way in the real world. It keeps us off balance. I've walked down the street and I've had people come up to me and verbally attack me because I was smiling and say to me, basically, why are you so happy? What are you smiling at? And I've found myself thinking, oh my God, wow, how upside down, how inverted is our reality? Somebody will stop me on the street and accuse me of being too happy or being on the train, being too happy. But it's okay to have violence, to have unkindness, to have harm as entertainment. It's like, guys, wow. So is it any wonder that most of us are confused, uncertain, unsure as to what we truly desire, of who we truly are, of what we can and can't express in the world? Of being truly free. I knew there was going to be a connection here somewhere. Going off on a tangent about media and entertainment. Yeah, I knew it would come back together somehow. I was going to say, I was just thinking about the concept of violence. It's in my world, so I'm just going to speak to it. I'm not going to filter what comes through me right now. And it may not mean it's a beautiful, smooth path, but I guess that's the joy of learning and exploring. And we learn through allowing ourselves to express that and not filtering ourselves. Hashtag no filters. Remember, that's what this is called. So, what is this thing about violence? This, what is that about? Whether it's verbal violence, attacking, aggression, not letting others express their view because it may create an uprising, it may create non-conforming, but it's okay for people to physically kick off. And when we've seen this, right? We've seen this. Some of us may have seen this. The whole Black Lives Matter movements, huge amounts of violence, of destruction of property, and it being okay, but people questioning what's going on in the world in terms of lockdown, and people it not being okay in this situation, or people doing things peacefully, or speaking peacefully, or protesting peacefully, and it not being okay, and people being handled by police far more firmly in peaceful protests versus kicking off, smashing things up. It's fascinating. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong, one's good, one's bad. I'm just saying, look at these conflicting these messages. How confusing that is. How that keeps us uncertain about what we can and can't do. And if you're uncertain about what you can and can't do, if we're constantly getting those contradictory messages from the external world. I mean, I live in the UK, and obviously things are going on all around the world, but there's weekly updates, daily updates, what numbers are, what they aren't, what tier people are in, what tier they're not in, um, where they can and can't go. Confusion, 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 confusion. It's fascinating. When you're confused, you're unable to have a clear view. When you're unable to have a clear view and have a calmness within you, you're unable to choose what would work for you. You're unable to contribute to your community because without that clarity, without that calmness, we don't consider our neighbours, we don't consider our colleagues. We don't care about another country. None of that is accessible. In confusion, in concern, in worry, in fear, We go into pure survival: food, shelter, air. We buy, we stockpile, we just look at our own literal little domain. We dare express an opinion that doesn't conform. Think about it being at work. How many of you have or haven't sat in a meeting really wanting to either have more clarity or to actually challenge an idea that's being shared, or somebody who's trying to push an agenda, and you've not allowed yourself to express that, to go there because you're worried, concerned, scared about what somebody might think of you, of how others might judge you, of how it might damage your career prospects. You've squashed who you are because of what somebody else outside may or may not do to you, or what you perceive they may or may not do to you. Conversely, when have you, whether in a meeting at work, whether in your neighborhood, whether in an intimate relationship, whether with a friend, whether just out and about and with a stranger, when have you spoken up because you truly believe in something and you have no doubts about that and you're willing to put yourself out there no matter what? It might be a belief you have about a particular type of music you enjoy, about, I don't know, a team you support, something you're passionate about. You don't hold back on sharing how you feel about that. You allow that essence of you, that desire to, that part that desires to be expressed and known in the world, to come out. Even though others, again, may well disagree and have a different point of view. You let that through. You don't filter that. You don't stop yourself. That's what I'm talking about in terms of freedom. The ability to let you be out in the world, to let your ideas, your views, your talents, your desires, your to come out into the world. To not tiptoe around for fear of retribution. Do you have kids? Do you remember being a kid? Being curious, going to explore, wanting to see what was possible? Does anybody bring a child into the world wanting their child to be fearful, to basically not shine? Probably not. I mean, there may be some people. But generally, I would think if we have children or relatives, babies in the family, little kids in the family, we don't want them to prosper. We want them to enjoy life. We want them to see what they're capable of. We wanted that as kids. That was our experience, to go out there and see what we do, to explore and wonder. And yet everything is teaching us at an early age to shut that down. How many kids at school, or how many do you remember? Do you remember being at, do you remember being at school? Let's assume you do. Maybe you're still at school. Do you remember a kid in class, or any kids in class, that would ask too many questions? Or the ones that did challenge the teachers were the ones that got thrown out of class? Maybe not. Maybe that didn't happen. for you and where you were? I've watched teachers. I've coached kids in school. I've worked with kids from the age of 5 or 6, but generally I've worked predominantly with 14, 15, 16 years of age, some sort of 17, 18. Not for a while now, but I did for a few years work a lot with that age group. And you know what's really interesting? Because I worked with kids who were deemed high achievers, that were destined to do great things. I worked with kids who were labeled challenging, difficult, underachievers. And you know what was unsurprisingly similar? Is that despite all the labels, at the very core, is that the kids were trying to be themselves, and everybody around them was trying to make them dance to their tune. The teachers wanted certain things from them. The parents wanted something from them. Their coaches wanted something from them. Everybody wanted them to conform to all their other people's needs, but no one really wanted them to be them, to be themselves. No one wanted the kid just to do what felt right for the kid. I remember one young guy who was incredibly talented, was playing for a, I'm not going to say names because it would be unfair, even after all these years, to share specific details, but a Premier League team. Was going through their training program, was modeling and for major brands, global brands, and he was labelled as a challenging student. Oh yeah, and he was also an amazing dancer. Did cool stuff around that. Yeah, he was labelled as a challenging student because maybe he didn't value the academic part so much. Actually, it's because he was kind of comfortable in his own skin. And he had some really cool stuff going on. He never bragged about it. I'd see him in the playground. I'd see how he interacted with people. What I did see were teachers being really uncomfortable, particularly a teacher being really uncomfortable with this kid's level of success and, frankly, ease at being who he was. And so this teacher, a number of teachers, tried to continue to chip away at him to make him close down, to make himself small, because he was shining too brightly for them. He was triggering their own stuff where they hadn't allowed themselves necessarily to shine as brightly as they could, to do what they really wanted to do in life, to be what they wanted to be. And so they felt more powerful by shutting down this kid and making this kid wrong, this kid broken. At the other end of the scale, and I'll bring this young man back into the story in a bit, I worked with I don't know, 9 A-star pluses, whatever the grade is, 10 super AA type student that was predicted to get all that, who had immense pressure from her parents, from the teachers, to continually hit high grades. And it never mattered what grade she got, it was never good enough. So despite shining academically, she was never good enough for anybody. And so it didn't matter what she did to please other people. It was never going to be sufficient. And so in both those cases, what I worked with those guys was that actually what was really important was how they felt about themselves. I taught them small tips and tools and basically how to believe in who they were, to express what was important to them, to be able to playfully manipulate the people around them. And what I mean by that is how to have ease with the people around them. So it didn't matter who was poking at them, who was going to judge them. They had tools to be able to handle that, whether it be the teacher, the parents, the brother, the sister. the other kids. And so they had a toolkit to be able to go continue to walk through their daily life and the world, knowing that at the very center of who they were, it was okay to be them and to shine in a way that worked for them. And how to have ease of everybody else's needs and demands of them. But to never forget the only person they had to be truly honest with was themselves, and that their true freedom was going to come from their ability to speak and do what was right for them and have the tools and techniques to handle other people around them in the way that created more ease in their own world and wherever possible was going to create ease for others, whilst recognizing that other people have the choice to interpret the world on their own terms. So right now, I may be saying stuff that doesn't make any sense to you. It may not resonate for you whatsoever. You may not give a damn, and that's fine. This is not for you. And maybe it'll be for you in a year's time, 6 weeks' time, 60 years' time. Maybe it's for you to pass it on to somebody else. I'm sharing these different viewpoints, these bits of food for thought, because it's part of my gift, my talent, my experience, my invitation as a member of this global experience we're having as humanity, as part of all the species on this planet, of part of being in this solar system, in these galaxies. For whatever reason, I came through and I've popped out and I'm in this body and I've had these life experiences and all the things I've chosen. All of those things enabled me to share and to invite each of us to have a greater sense of willingness to expose who we are, to ask for what we truly would desire, to begin to explore what we desire, to begin to question. Guys, I said this was going to be a ride, this show, right? It's intense. It feels like it's on fire. I've never preached, but I feel like I'm preaching now. It's almost as if time is running out. There are people who are speaking of this being a time of the great awakening in those that are into spirituality. The time where people are getting called to open their eyes to what's been going on in the world. To look beyond the veil of what we've been told is going on and what is true and see for themselves. To go beyond what we're told on a news item, on a social media feed, on a Google search result. Bear in mind that all of that can be manipulated. I used to program software. The software did what I told it to do, mostly. Depending on my skills at the time. It presented something. In fact, in my other phone here, I used to program software that enabled you guys to have, well, effectively mobile phones. For you to have contracts with so many minutes to speak or text or data. I programmed some of the first stuff around this technology 20 years ago now. 22 years ago now or something. All right, 90, no, God, 27 years ago. Anyway, You only got to use a mobile phone because of that type of software. Not that exclusively, there were other things to it, data, hardware, whatever. But it was able to function that way. You were able to have a contract to use a phone because of that software that I and others wrote. You were unaware that there were other ways of doing things. You could have more than you were being presented at that time. Other things were available to you because that was all that we were going to put out to the market. So what makes you think? What makes us think? What makes us believe that what we see in the world is all that there is? And that we have no options, we have no choices, we have to just go with what's being given. Do you? How much of you do you want to keep tied up and inaccessible? My hands behind my back here. Just so you can go along quite merrily with conforming to what the world's saying is only possible or what's being shown to us. Hey, if that's working for you, awesome. In which case, you haven't got this far in the video, to be honest. Because everything I'm sharing here is about challenging that, being willing to bring out that little hand and show it to the world, to fly your freak flag, as some might say, to have family members go, what's got into her? Or snigger at you at a party because you don't dress quite the same as everybody else, because you're sharing an interest and a hobby you've got that no one else seems to have. Or you're asking or sharing an opinion about something that's happening in the world that no one else wants to talk about or share or has been willing to. And it's not about your point of view or my point of view being the truth or pushing everybody else's point of view out of the way. It's not about that at all. It's about you being able to have that freedom, that ability to express you, to explore you. Because guess what? If you have the freedom to explore your what's truly your thinking. So look at our society here, the normal pattern. Come into the world, go to school, learn a load of stuff we don't even need. As I said, I did an engineering degree, uh, manufacturing engineering, how things are made, a bit like mechanical. I got a first, not even a first, I came first with my first out of the whole of my school. Does that mean I knew something? Not really. 3 years earlier, I'd worked on the full Mondeo when it was a prototype because I was sponsored by Ford. I worked on a prototype before I'd even gone to university. I then did a degree for 3 years to prove that I could go and work on a prototype. How insane is that? We go through a schooling system where maybe we just need to learn to spell, to read and write, to count. But we learn nothing about how our current financial system works, how we can manage our money, how we apply for passports, how we manage our legal documentation, how we buy a home, how you decorate a home, how you budget for your shopping, how you really take care of your body, how your body even works. Yeah, we look at some biology at school, some stuff in a petri dish, lots of theories. There are things that I have changed in my own body that they say are impossible to heal. I should not be able to walk. I should not be in remission, as in free from or not at the effect of rheumatoid arthritis in the base of my spine, that as a teenager is deemed to be basically impossible to manage other than with drugs, and that one's mobility will decrease. After a year of taking some painkillers, anti-inflammatories, which I did under duress, let's just say, but I did what I needed to do to get through, and then to get that crap out of my system, as in that so-called disease out of my system, and never have it recur again. To have endometriosis, which is apparently the idea that a lining of our womb comes out and attaches to other parts of our body, which for so many women, it's insane that women that suffer from that. The infertility that comes with that, the pain, the incapacitation that comes from that each month. For me to have cleaned that up and out of my body as well, another thing, not meant to be possible. I share these personal bits of example of my medical history as a invitation to look at, we're told these things aren't possible. Interesting. What else are we being told isn't possible? Or what else is being told to us as the truth, but actually maybe it isn't the truth. There are other things possible that we're capable of. Tripping over my own tongue. Sorry guys, getting so excited. There's so much. I think I'm gonna do some shows on the body and health and maybe different areas, things I'm aware of and knowledge I have that might be really, really cool in this ongoing exploration of freedom, the ability to be free. On that health thing, by the way, there are people that I know that I could have saved their lives, which sounds really dramatic. So they've been diagnosed with something that's incurable, and I've known others that have totally cured it, as in got it out of their bodies. Have done things with their bodies that are deemed impossible, and I've had this knowledge and some experience with it. And I would have been able to share that with them, but they were told and they believed there were no other options. And out of respect for their choice, because they weren't asking a question, and even when I'd maybe just share a little breadcrumb of like, oh, well, if you're ever curious about other options, I've heard people I know of other ways that could really change it for you, what's going on in your body. They've had zero interest. They've not wanted to go there. They've shut it down. I've seen people die and be more willing to die than they were willing to look at going against or going beyond the narrative of what they're told is possible with their body and medically. People more willing to die because they believe that the system of society and how it's portrayed is the truth, pretty much, and that there's very little outside of that. Not all of us, I get that, but the general majority. And we are so much more comfortable and got so used to being told things and believing it and not that we can't even comprehend that maybe we've been lied to or that there are completely different narratives available to us. Our whole identity is built on believing that societal structures and all the industries we have and all the things that they say are possible or aren't possible and all the things they tell us are the truth. Our identities are so closely aligned to that. For most of us, the idea of questioning it would shake us to our core. But if you're not willing to question it, is it any surprise that there's a sense of a constant sense of anxiety, of stress, of disappointment in life for so many people? Of feeling like they're on a treadmill, a slug, A bit kind of like deep today, a bit kind of like melancholic. But I'm not sharing it from that space. I'm sharing it from a space of saying, guys, that splinter in your mind, that bit in your being, your soul, that's getting you to go, something, this is not enough. Is this all there is? That's your inherent desire to be free, to express yourself. The uniqueness of you wanting to burst through because it knows that what we have, something's off. But only you can set you free. I can share ideas, other people can share ideas, we can inspire each other by speaking our truth, by being our truth, whether it's how we dress, whether it's what we choose to eat, whether it's how we speak up at a meeting. The willingness to share more of you, more and more, and to question is what will set you free from that that's going on in your world, that's going on in our world, the cray-cray. Because it doesn't matter what toys you buy, the house, the car, the partner, how many children you have, how many dogs you have, fur babies, how many holidays you have, how much you drink, how much you eat. We've all done that in varying degrees. And it's never enough, is it? It's never enough. That how much we scuff into ourselves, we stuff ourselves with stuff, we distract ourselves with. Doesn't matter how many times we scroll through our phones, it's not enough. And why? Because we know that's not what we truly are. Because the outside world is telling us what we should be, but we know within our being that's not fulfilling. And the only thing that's going to fulfill you is if you allow yourself to freely express who you are, which means doing some exploration. That means start trying to unzip and poke out behind the beigeness of conforming, of trying to fit in and being a good little citizen, which is what we're all taught to be. Doesn't mean we're going to go out and riot. Some people might choose that. It's not even about that. But it's start to speak and be your truth. Guys, wow, that's been a ride today's show. It feels like it's been up in your face. Well then, yeah. That's what needed to come through today. That's what I needed to express. Because somebody, somewhere in the world, this is going to create a change which unlocks a bit more freedom for somebody else. That allows somebody else to be more of who they are and who they were meant to be, as in their uniqueness came through at this time on the planet. Because it's a beautiful contribution. Not because the planet or humanity wants more of the same, zombies, drones. We all each exist, appearing uniquely different on so many levels because we have something different to bring. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I know I've been like on it. Are you free? Is it enough? It's a journey. We're going to explore more as I do more chats, shows, whatever. It's your path. I really hope there's something in there that's been a contribution, that will be a contribution now and or in the future. Please share this, don't like it. That's all cool. Whatever works for you. I'm just checking the time. We're just 59 minutes. I'm going to shut it off before the top of the hour. Yeah, share it with friends, family, anybody. And I look forward to catching with you guys again soon. Have a wonderful week wherever you are in the world. Take care. Big love. And be free.